Two presidential campaigns and two very different strategies in the last weeks. Before we go to the polls, it's our top story at the bottom of the hour. Even the most optimistic Republicans admit John McCain is in a tough spot. He would have to win all of the toss-up states that are in play as of today and pull in some states leaning toward Barack Obama. Today in South Carolina, Senator Lindsey Graham gave us a taste of what Senator McCain's strategy may be, and he did it with a little help from Senator Obama's running mates. Listen.
Here's what Joe Biden said out just a couple of days ago. Mark my words, it will not be 6 months before the world tests Barack Obama like they did John Kennedy. The world is looking. Joe, you're right, they are looking. If you don't remember anything else I tell you here at TC Millwork, there's never been a candidate for president of the United States more tested than John McCain.
Tested. Expect the McCain campaign to recite that word quite a bit in the next couple of days. The Obama camp has its own challenge to deal with. Senator Obama plans to cancel his campaign events on Thursday and Friday. You see, his grandmother is gravely ill in Hawaii. It was his grandmother who largely raised him, and it's his grandmother who he feels he must go to visit, so he will. He'll leave his wife along with Senator Joe Biden and his supporters to keep the momentum in a critical time just days before the election. Our political panel is coming in, and we're waiting for Joe Biden to speak. First, Marianne Marsh is a Democratic consultant who's worked on local and national campaigns. And Tyler Harber is a Republican pollster and strategist with the Wilson Research Strategies. And I want to give you a live picture. Good to see you guys. I want to show you. This is an introduction of Senator Biden. Now, I want to tell you what's coming up here. This Biden quote is getting a lot of traction. It will not be 6 months before the world tests Barack Obama. You heard Lindsey Graham talk about that. Now the Obama camp has just informed us that this is going to be, as they put it, a very big speech. They say he's going to go after John McCain in a very big way. So how do you learn about campaign tactics? You listen to the attacker-in-chief, the vice presidential candidate. Sarah Palin does it for the Republicans. Joe Biden's about to do it for the Democrats. When he does, we'll listen in because it's important to do that. Marianne Marsh, first of all, let's talk about this. We don't care about the introductions, really. You've worked with, well, you know, I mean, how many introductions can we take, really?
Right.
What do you see as strategy? You say that McCain needs to talk about the economy?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to hear McCain and Obama talk about the economy, but what you're going to hear from Biden, Palin, Graham, and others, the surrogates, is trust. Because the last 2 weeks of every election is about trust. That's what the word tested really means. Can you trust Barack Obama? And when it comes to trust,
what's that code for?
Well, that's really code for most people on the economy. But what they want to do is undercut Obama completely and say he's just not up to the job. That's what that's all about. You can't trust him to lead this country and protect it.
Tyler?
Well, you know, the bottom line here is every survey that's coming out of the field shows that the electorate generally trusts John McCain to deal with major crisis and major issues facing the nation. And I think Marianne's right. I think this has a whole lot to do with trust. And I think you'll see McCain in the closing days take a two-part strategy. The first is make it the Joe the Plumber campaign. Got to talk about the economy, but you can only talk about the economy from McCain's standpoint when you talk about Obama's tax plan and how it's going to affect the middle class. The second part of McCain's strategy is you've got to talk about trust. You've got to talk about being tested. You've got to really play on this fear and this unknown factor that Obama still resembles to the electorate.
Fear factor that Obama still resembles to the electorate. What did you just say?
Obama is still relatively unknown.
We've been listening to Barack Obama for 2 solid years. He has been put through a media ringer like I mean, the other side, you know, the other side from him wants to claim that he hasn't, but my God, this man has been hung out on Jeremiah Wright and associations and the way he handled this and the way he handled that. I mean, what are you saying? You know, there are a lot of people who say that's code for something. Tell us what you mean.
Oh, I don't mean code for anything. And the only thing that I mean by
what's
the
there to fear about him?
There's nothing really to fear about him. It's the aspect that there's still a whole lot of things about Obama that people just don't know. And when you go into
what don't we know about Barack Obama?
Like, what about his tax plan? It's still just now coming out about what it's going to do, what it's not going to do. The campaigns are at each other's throat. You talk about Bill Ayers had recently come out and his connections there, his connections with
what
possibly
kind of connections?
Some other people.
What about the Bill Ayers connection should we be concerned about so that people know?
Well, a whole lot of people don't understand the Bill Ayers connection. They don't understand Bill Ayers. They don't understand how dangerous he could be. You know, I'm gonna leave it definitely to the McCain campaign to explain it, because
but see, that's what happens. Surrogates come on and talk about Bill Ayers and be afraid, but then they never explain what there is to be afraid of. I mean, I could listen to Sean Hannity, but I'd like to hear, you know, from a McCain surrogate, I'd like to hear.
Sure. Okay, well, the bottom line here is Bill Ayers has direct connections with several domestic terrorist plots, and Bill Ayers helped Obama launch his campaign in Bill Ayers' own living room. You know, that connection has to be explored a little bit, and I know that this was basically last week's talking points all over the place.
And the week before.
And the week before. And, you know, I think
every night on Hannity and Combs.
Absolutely, and I think Obama is in a situation where he's still relatively unknown compared to John McCain. Now, I'm not saying he's a complete unknown, because he's not. It's just that he's relatively unknown. His connections are relatively unknown, and people still have this trust issue with him. That's why you see every survey that comes out of the field when testing characteristics and attributes demonstrate that voters still believe John McCain is better or best able to deal with issues in major crisis.
Marianne, at this Bill Ayers thing, how's it worked out for your side? It seems like it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, the number one issues the economy, period, end of sentence. And that's why Barack Obama has moved so far ahead in the polls. When the economy turned, voters turned to Barack Obama. What they're afraid of is they're not going to keep their jobs, they're not going to keep their homes, they're not going to be able to keep food on their table. That's why they've now shifted to Barack Obama. All the McCain campaign's trying to do now is get people to fear Barack Obama and not trust him. And that's all these last 2 weeks are all going to be about. You're not going to hear that from John McCain, but you're going to hear it from everybody else. Mark my words, and I think you just heard it this afternoon.
The specifics of the polls seem to have indicated over the last week, and Marianne and Tyler both, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to have indicated that the people have been turned off by all this talk of Bill Ayers and associations and the rest, and it's those issues and those talking points that have, at least over the last week or so, opened the divide in Barack Obama's favor. Is that what you guys have seen? Tyler, let's start with you.